another match of split format. So here I am playing 60 card Zefras, and my opponent is playing Dragunities. And I start off with the standard plays, Zefrath and a low scale to summon Zephyr New from the deck with the Pendulum Summon. And I open 2 back row and Providence to top it off, so this is kind of the ideal opening hand. I get to have my Zephyr War and my counter trap, and then I have a battle trap for backup in case the first 2 don't get me through the turn. And that's really more than enough, honestly. That should be enough to hold off pretty much any deck in the format, I think. He says his deck can't go second at all, which Dragunities are honestly better at going second than some of the other combo decks out there. Because they're not super... I mean, they're kind of relying on their normal summon, but only for it to stay on the field. Like, if you Fiendish Chain their normal summon, it doesn't really hurt them. Because they can just send that normal summon monster to the grave to summon Mistletoe, for example, and keep going. Or they can just have Remus summon itself instead of doing the normal summon's effect to summon the tuner. Remus can just revive itself for free. So as long as you don't pop their normal summon, they have a pretty decent time playing through going second. But of course, I have the Zephyr War set, and he missed it on the MST. So I am able to pop his normal summon, and that basically ends his turn. And gives me a follow-up play with Providence. He sets a back row. I top deck Rescue Rabbit, because I always top deck Rescue Rabbit, because that's how I'm just that good. Draw Rescue Rabbit every game, every turn, whenever I need it. I have 3 more back row this turn. I had 3 back row last turn, and I have 3 back row this turn, because Zephyr New is going to search another counter trap. And he has no way to survive. Like, he's going to have 3 cards in his hand. There's no way he can play through 2 counter traps. It's just not something he can do. He goes ugh, because he's just tired of getting stopped with all my traps. Tired of getting beat for 1900 4 or 5 turns in a row. I have Tornado Dragon to pop his field spell, 2 counter traps to negate whatever his 2 cards he can play are, and that pretty much seals it. So that was a really easy game for me. Because, I mean, when Zefras go first and they get a good hand with 3 back row, it's a pretty solid win for them most of the time. There are some decks that can push through that, but not many. When Zefras really are weak is when they go second and their opponent starts with some kind of back row removal, basically to shut down the Zefrath. If they can't get the Zefrath engine going, then, the Zephyr New engine going, then it's really hard for them to catch up. He goes first, of course. I actually don't open the 2 card combo, so I don't have a turn 1 play, because he's definitely going to be able to negate my Rescue Rabbit, and I won't be able to get a Gallant Granite or anything. So I'm kind of worried about what he's going to do. And he gets a pretty good hand, I think. Yeah, he has the Ducks to summon the Koos, and then the Remus summons itself, and he even has Glow to search out Mistletoe, so he has kind of everything he needs to make a big board. And yeah, I said I'm 99% sure I can out whatever he's going to make. And with this hand, I definitely can't, but the card I drew ended up being pretty helpful in that regard. He uses Ducks to revive Koos, which can treat itself as a level 4 tuner, enabling you to make Barcha. Without Koos, Barcha's quite a bit harder to make, I think. Yeah, I wanna say yeah, because you need a Winged Beast non-tuner, and they're all level 4 for the most part, like the ones that are worth playing. So having Koos to be level 4 tuner is really important for making Barcha. And then Barcha just gives you so much free advantage. It's insane. He goes for, he revives both of these. He goes for Mistletoe, which is basically a free summon because it just revives the Koos after you summon it. And then from here, he can synchro 10 for Ariadbear, and then he can synchro another 10, which, making 2 Ariadbear isn't that much better than 1 because it's hard once per turn, but like they still have to out both of them in 1 turn. So it's not totally pointless, because if they only out one Ariad Bear and they can't get rid of the other one, then you still have a monster negate every subsequent turn. So I get why he made 2. And here I'm kind of afraid of his back row because I saw last game that he plays Purgatory because I think he discarded it off Ravine, I think. So I know he plays the counter trap, which is one of the few cards in the format that can negate Zephyr Divine Strike. So I'm thinking when I use Storming, I should probably save my Divine Strike until that point just in case he has Purgatory to stop the Storming. And then I can Divine Strike to stop the Purgatory. At the moment, I don't really have a plan. I'm just kind of hoping I can survive long enough. Hoping he doesn't play around Storming. Because a lot of people don't play around Storming because they think people don't run it. But I always run 3. It's too good in my opinion not to run 3 in most decks. I wasn't able to break his board whatsoever turn 1, so he just gets to Ravine for a Dux and make a whole nother level 10. Because yeah, Dux is a 1-card level 10 past the first turn once you have some setup. Because it revives a level 2, which gives you a level 6 synchro. And then if you have Remus, that's what you use to make the level 6, and then Koos. Or you don't even need Remus, actually, because you can just revive Koos, make a level 6, have the level 6 revive Koos again, and then that's 4 plus 6 for 10. And he goes for level 6. He tries to go for Stardust, and I say, no, you can't do that, because Remus can only be used for Dragunities synchro. And then he's like, okay, I'll just use Koos instead. And I'm like, no, you can't do that either. And here I'm copy-pasting the text. This opponent in particular usually doesn't read what his cards do. Like he knows the general idea of what they do, but he never pays attention to the restrictions. Like, he also didn't banish Remus. I had to banish it for him, that kind of thing. It's whatever. I mean, I get it. When there's 2 paragraphs of text on every single card, you kind of start getting lazy. It's fine. So he does end up synchroing Remus and Dux for level 6. And then, yeah, this can revive something if he wants, but he ends up not reviving anything. I guess because he just doesn't feel like he needs it. Yeah, because the Koos and the level 6 make a level 10. So now he has Ascalon, which is rough. He activates its effect, I think, or he might not. He might have just attacked. Let's see. He puts both of his Ariad Bears in defense mode to play around Storming. Very smart. If he didn't do that, he would have just lost right here, because I would have bounced all 3 of his monsters. So yeah, he chooses not to activate the effect. If he did, I could have striked it, but I probably wouldn't. Because like I said, I'm afraid he has Purgatory set, and I don't want him to negate my strike. So yeah, he just attacks over my tour guide. Maybe I should have saved it, but I wanted him to think, like, I kind of wanted him to think I didn't have the Storming, like maybe I only had a D-Prison instead. So I set a monster to make him think I was in more trouble than I actually was. It did not work, because he still played around Storming. Here I use Zefras to send another Neo, just loading my extra deck for Divine Strike since I will have to banish something for the cost once I use it. Drawing this was really nice. In Zefras, having 2 scales that are not normal Zephyr monsters like Neo and Thuban and all that, with the restrictions, having 2 scales with no restrictions is so nice because it lets you pendulum summon stuff like Rescue Rabbit or Sangan, or Moonlit Chill, or Hallow Hallow, or Red Resonator. Like, all these techs you play that you can't normally pendulum summon, if you have a Magical Libra or a Hallow Hallow in your pendulum zone, then you can pendulum summon, and it's a game changer. It gives you so many more options. He warning points my Neo, so I do not get to search another counter trap. I also don't have access to Zephyr Providence yet, so I am not able to protect my scales in the case that Ariad Bear gets destroyed, because when it is destroyed by anything that your opponent does, it's basically a free Harpy's Feather Duster, which is really bad for Pendulum decks because they kind of need their scales to keep going. and usually Providence is the counter to that, because it can protect both of your scales if they're both Zefras, or in this case it would just protect the Zefrath, which is still good. But unfortunately I don't have Providence, so I am kind of scared of him wiping my scales. So I have to play around that carefully. He uses Ascalon to banish my Zefras. Of course he does, he doesn't want me getting a free search. And then he attacks for 33. And I don't storming it because I want him to think I don't have storming or any kind of battle trap. You know, mind games, life points are a resource, I'm just using them wisely. My turn, I draw Ghost Mourner. This would have been really nice, 2 turns ago when he was comboing. Now it kind of doesn't do anything for me. I think I just end up setting it. Or maybe I don't, because whatever I set, he's just going to banish anyway. But every time he does that, it does make his graveyard a little smaller. So it's not like he has infinite banishes. He will run out of banish fodder eventually, so the more stuff I make him banish stuff from his graveyard to deal with, the faster he'll run out. Because Ariadne also needs to banish something to get his negate off. So it's a balancing act. Do I set something to make him banish, or do I save the hand trap in my hand to try to negate something in the future? Just one more decision that I have to consider. I Pendulum summoned Thubin, but I did not use the effect because I knew he would just negate and banish it, and I would have my field wide open again. I don't know why I did that, honestly, because he's just going to banish it with Ascalon anyway. So I think I probably should have at least... There's no difference. If he banishes for Ascalon to get rid of it, that's the same amount of material that he would have had to banish for Ariadne to get rid of it. So it's really no difference. It's all the same. He goes for Legatus, which cannot pop anything in my back row, thankfully, since he has nothing equipped to it. But it is a free special summon. And then Remus summons itself for free, and then it can go for a level 6. I think this is the Remus that I banished for him. Because whenever Remus summons itself, it has to banish itself afterward. Okay, he banished that one himself. Cool. He uses the level 6 to revive. And here I think he's going for another Ascalon just to beat me down, but he goes for Romulus. So I am glad I kept this in my hand. He could have negated my hand trap with Ariadne, but he didn't for whatever reason, which I don't know why. He has more than enough fodder. He could have spared one. But yeah, I negate his search, and he just lets that happen. Really not sure why. Maybe he thought I had another hand trap? I don't know. He should have negated that, because then he would have been able to search Purgatory. Or, probably Purgatory, yeah. To have a spell or trap negate. He uses Ascalon to banish my Thubin. And then, yeah, here he is able to attack for 45. Not enough to kill me, but I don't want to be at 200. Obviously, too close for comfort. So here I do use the Storming. Maybe I should have used it a turn sooner, but I think it ended up being the right decision in the end. His Ariadne Bears are still in defense mode, so I have to deal with those some other way. My Storming is gone, meaning if he starts attacking with them, I'm kind of out of responses, since Divine Strike doesn't do anything to attacks. Drawing this tuner was pretty cool, I would say, because, Zefraxi, the Zefra quote tuner, that only functions as a tuner if you have another Zefra on board with it. Because of that restriction, it's kind of inconvenient, so Halgo is really nice for just being a pendulum tuner with no conditions. And it's a low scale, so it kind of serves the same function as Magical Libra in being a scale that doesn't restrict you to only Zefra monsters. Here, I thought about my plays for a while. With Magical Libra being a scale 5, I can only summon low levels or high levels with my Pendulum Summon. I can't do both because it's in the middle. So I can either summon just News or anything else, really, because I don't play any level 5s. So anything that's not Zephyr Neo can be Pendulum Summoned with scales in between 1 and 5. So I summon all 3 of these, of course, Why shouldn't I? I use Thuban to pop Ariadbear, and he lets it go through because he still has another one on board, and it's hard once per turn, so if he uses this one to negate Thuban, he can't negate anything else I do that turn. So I was kind of expecting him to negate it, just to protect the Ariadbear, I guess, but he ended up not doing that, which I think it would have been the same either way. But it was nice. It gave me the comfort of only having one Ariadbear left to deal with instead of two. So here I have a few options. I can either synchro for Moonlight, or I can use Rescue Rabbit to summon my other two Libras and go for a rank 4, which could either be Tornado Dragon to pop his Ravine to prevent follow-up plays, or Castell to shuffle back his Ariadbear without triggering its Harvey Feather Duster effect. And both of those are very good options, but I can only do one because this will negate the other one. However, I still have access to my Divine Strike, which can negate Ariadbear. It will just also trigger its Harvey Feather Duster effect. Speaking of which, that's actually what I'm negating right now, because since he did let my Thuban pop his Ariadbear, he was able to trigger the Harvey Feather Duster effect. Here, the Divine Strike, it wasn't, I don't know why I didn't think it was obvious during the game, but in retrospect, obviously you negate the Ariadbear, because there's two possibilities. Either you lose Zefras and your counter trap and Magical Libra, or you chain the counter trap and you only lose Zefras and the counter trap, and you keep your Magical Libra. So, I mean, I lose the Niu in my deck, but I still, in my extra deck, but I still have one in my hand, so I still have full access to it next turn, so yeah. Negating the Ariadbear was the obvious move, because I would lose the trap either way. I think I could have... Oh, I guess I... Wait. Oh, right, that's right. I didn't have Zephyr Providence this game. So I was not able to protect the Zefrath, unfortunately. That's okay, though, because worst case scenario, I scaled the Zephyr Niu, and then... Actually, yeah, that's not okay. I kind of have no follow-up scales, because if I scale the Niu, I only have a 5 and a 7, which doesn't pendulum summon any of these things. So that is kind of unfortunate. I have to hope I top deck a low scale next turn, basically, to keep playing. Here I activate Rabbit to go for Castell and get rid of his Ariadbear. Basically baiting it out, because if I have Castell on board, he has to negate it or he loses his Ariadbear. And then I can go for Moonlight Black Rose Dragon afterward to bounce the Ariadbear, still not triggering its Harvey Feather Duster effect, even though he already used that, but, you know, it's still nice. It's still nice to have a way to pop it, because with Moonlight, it also acts as an interruption on his turn, bouncing the first level 5 or higher special summon he makes, which is usually going to be a Synchro Monster. And bouncing the Synchro Monster means it won't get to revive a level 2 tuner from his graveyard either, so it's a really good interruption to have. He doesn't even let me get the Libras out for Link fodder or Synchro fodder. He just negates the Rescue Rabbit right away, and then I Synchro for Moonlight and bounces Ariadbear. I attack for 24, and pray that I top deck a low scale next turn, or a Zefrath. This is honestly kind of a pretty even position right now, because while I do have one interruption, he still has Dragon Ravine to get a follow-up play every single turn. The only issue is my Moonlight is still in the way, because whatever Synchro Monster he goes for, my Moonlight will just block it, bounce it back to the hand. So whenever he does make a play, he needs to have a follow-up play to that follow-up play, or his turn will just be over. And he'll have wasted his normal summon, or whatever other resources he used. He does have Graham Engrave, which he decided not to use. At the time I wasn't sure why, but later on he said he didn't use Graham because he wanted to get rid of my Moonlight first. Which must have been what this back row was for. Because if he summoned Graham, Moonlight would bounce it, but then he could have just used Dragon Ravine to discard the Graham and get a Dux or whatever, and then normal summon, and make another Ariadbear and attack over the Moonlight. So I think that was a big misplay on his part. If he had played that smarter, he might have won. But instead, he just set a trap and did not summon Graham, and passed, which I think was a really big mistake on his part. I top deck the terraforming because of course I do. I'm good at this game. I always draw what I need. Terraforming gives me the Oracle to get not the high skill, the Zefras. And then the Zefras gives me everything I need to keep going. He says he hates me. Because, yeah, I keep drawing everything I need. Draw the terraforming when I need it. Draw the storming when I need it. It all works out. I use Zefras to send a high scale, making my scales 5 and 7 so I can summon the Yugioh from my hand. Which is why it was okay that I banished this one with the Divine Strike, because I still had the other one in my hand. Ready to go, and even if I didn't, Zefras could have sent Yugioh instead of Saiton. And then I just Pendulum Summoned from my extra deck. So here I pen 1. I would like to have Pendulum Summoned the Thubin to pop his field spell, but I couldn't, because Magical Libra is not a low scale. It is a right down the middle scale. I can either summon Yugioh or the low levels. I cannot do both. So I choose to go for Yugioh, so I can get my Providence engraved, finally, to protect my scales from Ariadbear, or MST, or Twin Twisters, and I get a counter trap to negate his next Synchro Summon. Or, not negate the summon technically, but all his synchros have all his intermediate synchros have an effect when they're summoned, so that's what I'd be negating. He has Jelly Cannon, sadly. If it was a warning point, I would have been much happier. But he has the Jelly Cannon to get rid of my interruption. And there goes my Moonlight. His life points are protected, and now he is free to summon Dragunity Armored Graham, which Divine Strike kind of does nothing to, because it'll just put it back in the graveyard, but he can summon it next turn, since it summons itself from the graveyard, and it's a once per turn effect. Graham is honestly so strong. It gives the deck so much follow-up with so little effort, because you're putting like 2 or more Dragunities in your graveyard every turn anyway, so it's really easy to just keep having fodder every turn to summon Graham again. And that's assuming your opponent can even out it every turn, which is easier said than done, given how high its attack points are. He goes for Graham. Here he can just attack over my Yugioh, basically. If he uses Ravine to make a Dux and go for Ascalon, then I just negate the level 6 Synchro that he makes. Or I negate the Dux, which is probably better, because then he'll have less stuff in his graveyard to work with. Whoa, did he cheat here? He did cheat here. I didn't notice that at the time. He used Dragon Ravine to search a level 6, which is definitely not what it does. Shoot, how did I not notice that? So yeah, he normal summons, sacks it to summon Mistletoe, which he shouldn't have been able to have. But I think he could have just summoned Dux instead off the Dragon Ravine, and it would have been the same end result, because Dux would summon the Kus, Kus would make another Vajrayana, and then the Vajrayana would serve the same purpose as the Mistletoe. So even though he technically cheated, I don't think it would have made a big difference if he did the legit play. It would have had the same end result, I believe. So he activates Mistletoe. Here's where I use the negate, so he doesn't get to get another Dragunity monster in the graveyard. Or more importantly, he won't be able to get an Ascalon on board now, which is what I was really afraid of. So I negate that, banish my Zefras, because it is useless once it's in my extra deck, and then he attacks over Yugioh. I get a... Do I get a free search? Did I forget the search? Did I? Wow, we're both just making all sorts of mistakes. I totally forgot the search off of Zefra Yugioh. I never forget that. That's the reason the card is so good. Wow, misplay from me. Maybe it was all for the best, though, because I top decked the tour guide. If I had shuffled my deck after the search, maybe I wouldn't have top decked the tour guide. So the heart of the cards was on my side with that. Yeah, because even this has a once per turn negate, but Zefra Yugioh is a different card in the extra deck when it triggers. So this negate would not have prevented Zefra Yugioh from activating. So I just totally forgot about Yugioh's search. I wonder if he noticed and just didn't tell me. He probably did. But it worked out because I drew the tour guide. Here I have so many options because tour guide summons Sangan, and Sangan, as you all know, gives you a free search when you link it off. So here I link for link 2, and then I can Pendulum Summon 2 monsters from my extra deck, and I can Pendulum Summon whatever Sangan searches. Because Sangan does not prevent you from summoning the monster you search, it only prevents you from activating effects of cards with that monster's name. So while I cannot use Researcher's effect to summon something, which I wouldn't do anyway because I play no other rocks, it's only here for a level 2 tuner, I can still Pendulum Summon it. And the reason I can do that is because both of these are generic scales. They do not lock me into any specific archetype. So again, having that Libra in scale was very, very handy because it enabled me to Pendulum Summon so many things that I would not have normally been able to Pendulum Summon. Here I go for 2 level 4s from my extra deck, giving me Tornado Dragon access, and the Researcher from my hand, giving me Synchro access to a level 6, or a level 10. I could do that. Yeah, I can go, since I Pendulum Summoned these, I can go Stardust Charge Warrior into Nirvana. But attacking over the Gram is not ideal, because it revives itself basically for free since he has so many Dragunities in the graveyard. So I would rather either shuffle it back to the deck or banish it. Or there's one other option, which you'll see in a minute after I do it. Here I use Thuban to pop my Scale, which I protect with Providence, and to pop his Ravine to prevent any follow-up plays. And then I Synchro level 6 for Metaphys Horus. Insane Synchro monster, absolutely crazy. Whenever you Synchro it with a Pendulum material, your opponent has to give you control of any monster they control of their choice. If they only have one, that's the one you get. And now that I control Gram, he has no way to revive it, because it's not in his graveyard. It's on my side of the field. I don't have game on board this turn. I have 5,200 damage, I believe. Or is that 42? 5,200, yeah. Which is not enough to kill him, because this cannot attack this turn. But he has literally no follow-up, because I stole his Gram, and I popped his Ravine. So basically he would have to top deck a Ducks, and then he could make Ariadne, but even then, I still think I would have been able to play through the Ariadne. I don't know, actually. Maybe he didn't need to give up. I mean, the odds that he top decks a Ducks, since oh yeah, he's out of Remus, so he would have to draw the Ducks. I think that's the only way he could have done anything next turn. And he forfeited before he got a chance to even see what his draw was, because, yeah, I guess he was just not happy that I stole his Gram. So he had he already used 2 Duxes. Yeah, so let's say he had like a 1 in 23 chance of making a comeback, and that's assuming I had no way to out the Ariadne next turn, which I probably did anyway. All I would need is, what would I need? I could Pendulum, he'd probably kill the Gram so that he could revive it himself, and then I could Synchro Summon for Nirvana with these 2, and then Nirvana can attack over Gram and put the Zefra Divine Strike back in my hand, or the Storming, even better. And I would also be able to Pendulum Summon this Thuban, and then he would negate the Thuban, and then maybe I could do some sort of follow-up play with Zephyr Niu to search Zephyr War, and pop the Ariadne that way, after it's already used its effect. Or actually, yeah, you could just go straight for the Niu, and not even bother with this. Because it can, oh yeah, it can negate a monster effect. So either he negates Thuban, or he negates Niu, but he can't do both. And either way, if one of those goes through, the Ariadne is going to die. And then I have Nirvana to attack over the Gram, and probably for game, since he would only have 400 life points left. So, yeah. Point is, even if he did top deck the 1 Ducks left in his deck to make another Ariadne, I had plenty of ways to out it, and that's not even considering what I would have drawn next turn. Alright, that about does it. I hope you enjoyed watching this game. The first game was pretty lame, but this second game was really intense, honestly. Like, having to deal with both of those Ariadnes and the Ascalon, it seems kind of insurmountable, but with Heart of the Cards and determination, anything is possible. Okay, I'll see you next time.